Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I'm sure some of you are wondering where the videos are for the past couple of weeks. Many of you who have been around my channel longer know that this time of year is not usually super hot for me. There's 2 months of the year that always kind of just bring my mood down, and it's March and November. So anytime those come around, unless I'm like super crazy motivated with like a brand new video idea, I always tend to kind of lessen the content around that time. Fortunately, we had a great start to the year with tons of news and information. There's still some things I could throw some videos out there about. I have a list of ideas, fortunately, written down, and it's never too late to do any of them, especially with the Ever Crisis website popping up, a Bravely Default 2 set of guides I've even considered. I was just going to say a review, but I've been playing the hell out of Bravely Default 2. That's been my stress relief for the past couple of weeks, so I will be putting a video out regarding my thoughts. I've already started writing that down, and I actually did 2 playthroughs, one where I'm super OP, and one where I'm not so much, a 4-job Fiesta equivalent. On the second one, and having completed both of them, I feel like I have both sides of the spectrum of the difficulty of the game, of its pros and its cons, and I'm looking forward to producing a spoiler-free video on that. Though I would also like to do a spoiler-style one, but let's see about that. But anyway, I haven't eaten yet today. In fact, right before this, I shoveled 1 tablespoon of peanut butter in my mouth just to hold myself over until after so I can make some spicy Italian sausage, onions, and rice. That's going to be a good time. So with that, let's get to the questions. Thank you to our patrons over on Patreon for supporting the channel. Nothing fancy out of that. We just show some appreciation to those who throw some extra support at the channel. All of my content is free and always available here on YouTube because that's how I would prefer to run my channel. Thank you to our Patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Jenova, and Kurenai Oni for going above and beyond. You two are amazing. Every one of you are amazing. And thank you to everyone tuning in, asking a question, or listening to me answer a question, I suppose. With that, let's get started. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Wow, 6 hours ago. This is from today. Hey, Haps, my fiance, and hello, by the way, and I were talking about how much we enjoyed tanking in other games, but not so much in 14. This is mostly due to having to memorize the names of boss abilities and what they do. Do you think adding a specific icon for ability types would be a good idea? Tank busters, having an ability name next to them, think it could bring some casual players. You know, I'm not opposed to that. More information in the game, I feel like, is always valuable. Even just changing the font color, the font size, something along those lines, any sort of indication that what you're seeing is a tank buster. I don't think you need to do that for every ability, but if we're just doing it for one, like tank busters, I'm totally on board for something like that. It's something that you always discover almost immediately, but if you've never done a piece of content, you're a brand new player, and tank busters are not something that are super normal. In fact, A Realm Reborn does instant cast tank busters, so you don't even know, for the most part, that they are going to be one until you've, actually done something a couple of times. Yeah, I think that would be valuable. I don't know how well it would work with their UI development. I don't know if there's any code conflicts, but I'm totally on board for adding that, especially as a new player tool. I agree. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps, a long time. I recognize the name. Long time indeed. By the way, this person also did ask me if I was going to put out any BD2 videos. Hopefully the start of my video would also provide some insight into where I am with that, since I recognize the name. A bit of speculation question. Okay, normally I'm not super big on these. You know that, though. So let's see what we got here. With the announcement of TBC Classic, Blizzard announced they would give players early access to Blood Elves and Draenei before the official launch of TBC Classic, something they also did with Legion and Demon Hunters. I do remember that. You think this would be something 14 would ever incorporate? Well, we have it in some elements, but not with specifically races. Here's the big thing. I don't think we'll ever get another race in 14. We might, but I don't think we will. So early access needs to be considered for things like new jobs, like you mentioned with Demon Hunters. And more often, they seem to want to release features that they're afraid will break the game than, I guess, features they want us to access early for, like, PR or marketing or things like that. At least that's what it seems to be, like, the kind of route that they want to go. So, yeah, I mean, they could. I'm almost certain that for this cross-world, the cross data center feature that they're adding, that almost certainly will be available early, just like they did the cross server party finder, or the ability to hop server visiting before Shadowbringers release. But the whole thing, yeah, I mean, they'll do it in bits and pieces, but I think they're largely going to keep to themselves and wait to release it. So that way everybody experiences and everybody does it at the same time. I just don't think they'll stray from that, but I'd be cool with them giving us access to the new jobs like a month in advance or something to get those first 10 levels so we can immediately go into the new content. I just don't think they will. That's the honest truth. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Haps. I almost read it as Henlo, even though you didn't say Henlo. Hope you're doing all right. I hope the same for you. As always, thanks for answering my question last week, and here are a few more if you don't mind. Don't mind at all. If I don't answer the questions, what point of there is a video? What point is a video? I haven't eaten, so I'm going to shut up. We've seen the devs experiment with large-scale instances, specifically with how many people can be in one. Eureka at 144, BA up to 56, even though it's in the same instance, Bozja with 72, and Castrum and DR Savage with 48. And Castrum sharing the instance. With how many issues come up with that large amount of people, what do you think should be the ideal number? I think 24 is the ideal number. DR Savage has a big issue with not having flexible raid sizes, and that leads to all sorts of problems. Now, I believe some testing has been done in DR Savage in that if you have somebody enter the instance, if all 48 people enter and then somebody leaves, I've heard people say that the actual enemies do downscale in there. So there is a factor of dynamic scaling in that instance, unless, of course, I'm misunderstanding what people said. That's always possible. I haven't tested it myself. So don't take that as a fact. That's just what I've been told by other people. So I think if you're going to have a static number like they do with DR Savage, I think 24 is more ideal. I think it's more manageable. But I get that there's some things they really want to have that scale for. Castrum does feel great having 48 people in there. BA did feel really cool, even if it didn't always feel like there was that many people in there, just because it wasn't as intense as DR Savage is. But, you know, for its time and honestly for just doing it with other people, it's still pretty cool. But I think 24 is the ideal. If they're going to go with something large scale, I think it's just the right amount. Took my highest log this tier, took away 80%. Oh, it's talking about second question: with our power dropping by 80%, is it safe to assume we'll be going down relatively to Stormblood stats? Yeah. Although we don't know what our stats will look like at 90. We know what our damage will look like at 80. The example he gave being, you know, right now my Fire 4 does 50,000 after the stat squishing, it would do 10,000. Obviously still referring to level 80, you know. So we don't know what we'll look like at 90, because while 50 to 80, and I know I said last week I just didn't want to do this question anymore, but you didn't ask the question the way some other people ask it, so I'm okay with it. 50 to 80, the stats, the amount of growth is going to go down, but 80 to 90, it's still going to be our old growth. So we're not going to hit back to 50k, but we'll still be getting, or at least for what his like example was, but we'll be accelerating back up to a pretty decent number. So I think that at 90 will be higher than what you're suggesting, but at 80, yeah, I think that's where we'll be. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Haps, I hope you're having a great day so far, and you doing aight. Yo, you doing aight? I'm doing aight. So I was farming Deliverance for my second Relicus Scholar. There are a few newbies in the raid, which is fine. We're helping them understand mechanics. Cool. At one point, I used Rescue on a Dragoon who would have died if I didn't. We finished the raid and all good. 2 days later, a GM got in touch with me and stated I harassed someone with Rescue during Yo, can I personally interview the GMs for this fucking game? For God's sake, please. I don't even want to finish reading this, because obviously I know where it's going. It's like, you know, should I bother appealing their decision? I didn't record the gameplay, I have no proof. Should never use Rescue except with premium. It's so fucking... I don't know who to... No, you know what I do know? I do know who I hate more in this. I was going to say, do I hate the Dragoon who got rescued more? Or do I hate the GM who banned with that? Honestly, I don't know who I hate more. I think I hate the GM. No, you know what? I hate the person, because the GM probably has no reasonable way. He can literally just read chat logs. He sees that, yes, there was a rescue used. Person's claiming that rescue was harassment. They can't watch you do it again and put context into it. And they often say, no, we don't take proof from outside the game. And then they go and ban people for shit that happens outside the game. So I don't fucking know. They need to nail down what the fuck the criteria are for the GMs. Because ever since the random Twitch bans we had ages before, they weren't random, but like when those few ones happened, and like it's just been a fucking nightmare. Then you had the Vendetta, the RP Vendetta GM in recent. Like, who the fuck are they hiring? I mean, I understand a lot of GMs don't give a shit. Some do. I've had GMs that are really cool be in contact with me. They'll like role play and shit, and it's like, you know what? I'm glad this person's into their job and doing their best to have a good time. Then you get people like this. It's just like, bro, I didn't do that. He was in an AoE. And I pulled him out of it so he didn't die. And that should be the end of it. Like, okay, well, we received this, so we just had to make sure to investigate. And obviously, then he can't take your word for it either. Because, yeah, I guess fuck it. Don't rescue, ever. Even if it's to actually save a life. Or, you know what? Type something in party chat when you do. And be like, that was close. I got you out of that AoE. type something, because if all they can look at is the logs, then at least there's a log. But this is fucking stupid. I'm sorry you even had to deal with that. Okay, I saw this one was a stat squish question, but I did read it in advance to see if I wanted to skip it. So, hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hello, Hap. Hope you're having a good week. Hope the same for you. Second time asker, so no bonus. I know you're tired of stat squish questions, but one related to Blue Mage. You know what? This is one I was expecting to get, and it's the one everyone expected. Right now, Blue Mage can solo. Blue Mage soloed a level 80 extreme. They soloed Lakshmi, which we just did on Warrior, like, not too long ago. They soloed A8, which is, they're the ones who can most reasonably do it. It's super RNG focused whether or not you can solo A8 Savage, but it's still one of the few challenges. Only Blue Mage has been able to do it. And Warrior not going to be able to do it to level 90, most likely. So, how will it change? Yeah, I mean, the level 80, it's got to get harder. I mean, no matter how you look at it, until Blue Mage is 90, its solo capabilities probably get hit to some degree. I mean, if they're telling everyone unsyncing is going to be worse for every other job, they've said that at level 80, and then you'll get to level 90 and you'll probably just destroy it again. Then it only stands to reason that while Blue Mage is stuck at 80, it should be harder, right? That just stands, the logic stands there. So that's, I gotta line up my belief with logic. It'll still, don't get me wrong, you know, the basic instinct is still crazy, but I have to imagine that it is indeed going to be worse to solo at 80. I just can't imagine any other way. Hashtag Mr. Happy Moon Days. Hey. Hello, Haps. Hope your day is going well, and congrats on your moontastic prediction. Hey, you know what? That prediction was like a month ago, but you know what? I'll take it. I'm pretty pleased with it. 2 questions. 1, I've been progging Deliverance Savage and our one sour point. Some people never bring pure essences for Trinity and beyond. Wait, Trinity and beyond? Wait. Okay, so here's the thing. If you're not using a pure essence for the first trash pull, I totally get it. I don't agree with it. Well, I agree that when you haven't, like, cleared it or you've barely, like, gotten through Trinity Seeker, I think that's okay. As soon as you are on or getting past Trinity Seeker, you need to be pure. You need to have pure essences. You just need to. So the sour point should be booting those people. Because I don't care how expensive they are. I don't care if you just don't have the fragments. Go put some effort into something and go get the fragments. Because it takes like an hour to farm like 100-something clusters if you make a group of 8, which, you know, you have 48 people, so just get 8 people from the 48 and go farm some clusters. And yeah, it'll literally set you with like 33 of the item, and then you'll get as many pure essences as you get. That's an hour. So if people are just lazy, then boot their asses. That's what I always say. But only if it's Trinity Seeker and beyond. And honestly, I wouldn't, when I'm progging Trinity Seeker, I wouldn't pop a pure until I'm on Trinity or past it. Because you can survive Trinity Seeker AoEs without a pure essence. It's just not fun if people are learning it. It's way easier to have them for the learning process as well. But yeah, just and then there's a whole totally different story of when you're doing enrage pulls and you want a pure essence before even going to the golems or the slimes. But at that point, you shouldn't be wiping on them outside of very, very specific fringe cases. 2, with the return of Vice in 7 Remake and the inclusion of Crisis Core events in Ever Crisis, do you think the return of Genesis would be handled considering his likeliness? Yeah, I mean, I've been wondering about if they're just going to change his appearance so he doesn't look like Gact anymore. Or if they reached an agreement with Gact to use his likeness, one that he found acceptable. I think they're going to change his look. I think they're still going to keep him kind of similar, but they're going to like remove features that give him Gact's likeness. But we don't know what their contract with him is. He might have perpetual likeness rights, and he'd have to agree or be paid for any, you know, likeness in the future, and they might not be able to change it. I'd be hard pressed to imagine it being that way, but I think they'll overhaul his design personally. And see, unlike that one question where it was speculation, this one I couldn't help but read it because it's 2 lines and I saw one word and I'm like, okay, do I need to? All right, no, I know this one. Hashtag Mr. Every Monday. Hello, Haps. Appreciate your content. Listen to this every Tuesday morning on my drive to work here in Japan. Thank you for supporting the channel. I'm glad you enjoy it. Question. There is only one belt. I'm curious if you believe they'll make another piece of equipment to replace, and this belt is the speed belt. Thoughts? No belts means no belts. Sorry if you spent 20-30 mil on that thing or farmed it, but nope. It'll just sit in your inventory. It could be a nice little Final Fantasy XI reference, and that will be the end of it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Moon Man, you doing all right? Don't be... No, Ethis is supposed to be Moonman. We gave him that nickname, Ethis Moonman Asher, ages ago. I'm Moon Predictor. Never mind. Quick to Fu question. Do you have a preferred party setup for the harder content in the game, or do you have any favorite character units in general? 8 is definitely my favorite unit. He's got massive solo potential. Any fight that can't get through his perma evade and counter, it's incredible. I love using him for that. But that being said, I don't play Defu often enough to have a set party, but I never really felt like I had a set party. Like, there are characters that I will always take to, like, sort of similar, like, if I want to farm, like, if I want to do summon boards, like Khuja for his LD is almost a must take unless he gets resisted. But then it's like, a lot of the time it comes to playing to individual fights, especially because a lot of the harder fights try to force you down certain roads in order to complete them, especially the Lufenias. And then Cosmos and Chaos is about just using units you have that are strong, that still fit what the fight is asking you to do, but they're not as strict. Lufenia is where it starts to get really, really strict. So I wouldn't say there's one party, because the game wants you to be flexible. I mean, that's how the game encourages you to, you know, try to earn new characters or pull for weapons or things like that. That's the catch. That's how they get you. And I like it. But yeah, I don't have one set. But 8 is my favorite, definitely. Next one, hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well also. I want to discuss about frontline and PvP. Alright, let me read it first. One of the major flaws in Frontline is having 3 factions fighting at the same time. I know! I've been saying that for years. 2 will always bully one faction or another, while the third sit still and watch. All these add up to a poor experience. I completely agree. Do you think they plan to have 1 faction versus 1 faction but keep the 72? I think they should rework it. I don't think they will. I think I'd rather just make new PvP modes and just replace them. Like we've seen that with PvP. It's so weird. They do all of this work building up these resources, and then they, like, just replace it. Like, they're like, oh, we made something that we think is better, so let's just completely replace the previous one. And it's like, why can't you just have them both? And maybe make changes to the old one that, like, balance it out. It's just weird that they just completely throw it out the window with PvP. We don't see them do that with anything except Diadem in the rest of the game. So it's just really, really surprising to see them do that. No, I think they're just going to make new modes. They also said it's going to be small scale and not 72. Or at least it would imply not 72, because even their 48-man is considered large scale. So I think we're just going to see something closer to 8v8 or 16v16 at the most, and that's going to be what their small scale ends up being. And yeah, no, nothing about a 4th faction. No, this isn't footies in Warcraft 3. We don't need 4 different teams fighting in this. So yeah, I haven't had any discussions with them about it, not in an interview, anything. I've rarely asked PvP questions, but I'm in full agreement. I think the 3 teams is just not a good idea. Wow, this one's from 3 hours ago. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, how are you? I'm doing well. Hello, I hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts on the current polarity of utility versus personal DPS in the melee role? Should any existing job be shifted in one direction or another? Or would you rather see a new melee be another selfish or implemented as the dancer? I don't think we need... I think Ninja showed us what the dancer of the melee role would look like. Back when they were in Heavensward, they had enmity control, they had trick attack, they had TP control. Old Ninja was dancer in melee range, essentially, all the way back in Heavensward. And then when they made enmity easier to manage, and you didn't have that anymore, so they got rid of Shadeshift and whatever the other one was called. They got rid of gold. You know, trick attack is now much easier to maintain. I don't think they'll ever go down that road ever again. Even Dancer, you know, the range physical role is relatively balanced right now, but people have really shied away from Bard because it's a little bit more frenetic to play, and it's just not as satisfying as the other jobs. Like, there's no super big hit, there's no like super catchy gimmick. It's a lot of just OGCDs that end up just clipping each other. But still performs perfectly fine, but there's just less interest in it than there used to be. So that aside, that's completely irrelevant to the question. I'm indifferent. I think they've got a pretty good balance of the jobs right now. You see a pretty good spread of all 4 melee, despite we having, you know, the super selfish samurai and the, you know, dragoon who doesn't really do as much on their own and generally has a little bit lower RDPS than the others, but is still kind of welcome in that spot. The crit chance, the tether, and their own DPS being, you know, well enough good. It's just... That's for me as the example. They've shown both sides of the spectrum in the melee role, and they can do anything as long as it isn't too weak or too overpowered outside of the scope of what they have now. It'll be fine. I'm confident in that. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hello. Hope you and your family are well. We are. I hope the same for you and your family. Expanding on a question that you answered last week, would you consider doing a video on the optimal lost actions to bring? I was just talking about this the other day. Actually, well, I say the other day. It was before Bravely Default 2 came out. Listening to your monk setup made me envious, and I would like to have a nice guide laid out. Yeah, I considered this because I feel like a lot of people don't understand. It's not even just about recommending actions. It's about showing people how much of a difference you can make by trying versus not trying. Obviously, I have all the Savage gear on Monk. Having any of the Haste gear is going to make it seem crazier than it actually is, but it's still pretty freaking crazy. And the big thing with that is showing the difference between using an essence and not using an essence. And then you take it a step further and you show using an action, and then you show using 2 actions, and then you talk about the pure essences and the combinations that come with them. Even if you are not doing DR Savage, it's just fun sometimes to do some of these things. It makes the grind way more tolerable. It makes doing Delubrum something more to look forward to, even if you're just doing the weekly every Tuesday. And it'll get you through. That's how you get the 30-35 minute runs, is people giving a shit. And if somebody gives a shit like I do and they go way too try hard, like I said, I end up doing like 5 to 6 times some people's DPS who are melee DPS in the party. They're not like healers that I'm out DPSing by 6 times. So it's just, but you know, it's still the same, man. If people don't care, they don't care. So yes, I've considered doing this, and do I think some people, it would definitely raise some interest? Yeah, but there are some people who are just never going to try, no matter what we do. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, good sir. Hello. I have 2 questions. Hopefully both will be pretty quick. Looks like it, considering this is all the text. My wife and I are clearing the Palace of the Dead and have made it to floor 90. Seen guides on the bosses up to floor 1 to 100, but I haven't seen any info on what lies beyond. Do the bosses repeat? Yes, the 110 to 190 bosses are all harder versions of the original bosses. There's some great information about this. I don't think Angelus has anything written up. I'm trying to remember who made the like top-notch quality Palace of the Dead 100+ guide, because I can't for the life of me remember who it is, because there are some differences that you really need to be aware of, especially when it comes to the floor 180 and 190 bosses, which are where if you're gonna lose to a boss, it's almost certainly there and nowhere else, unless you really screw up bad on like 150 or something. But yeah, so they're on repeat, but they are a little harder. I can't remember. Somebody in the comment section, somebody knows what the guide is. The Palace of the Dead floor 200 guide. It has a solo-centric section. It has recommendations for solo versus when you're in a party of 2, 3, or 4, or when you're just, you know, not solo, I suppose. But yeah, they do just repeat. And as a player that dabbles in every job but doesn't do endgame content, enjoy your Versus series, find them informative. Do you plan on making another batch for 5.5? No, because at that point, so here's the big thing. If I release a Versus in 5.5, it's going to be reflective of Shadowbringer's balance, right? Which is then going to be completely uprooted several months later. And then all of a sudden people are trying to make decisions for what they should play in 6.0, and then it gets a bunch of job changes. It might still help people because it gives them an insight into how the devs have like designed the job from like the, you know, from the ground up, what the ideals are, but I feel like it's misleading for newer players who think that information is going to be super relevant to them in 6.0 when I'm going to have to remake them for 6.x anyway. So no, I don't think I will for that reason. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. If my first not hello today, it's fine. Do you think they'll... oh, this person accidentally double posted. That's fine. That means I don't... I saw that they had a double post right here, but it's the exact same question both times. Do you think they'll add more items to be purchased with gold or silver coins? Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll allow augments maybe eventually to be purchased with the silver or gold coins. Because right now, you can only purchase augments from DR Savage with the platings that you earn in DR Savage. Or you could just get them to drop in DR Savage if you're lucky enough. I never had that happen, not a single time. So for that, yeah, I think eventually as a catch-up mechanic or just as an availability, you know, to help people who maybe haven't done DR Savage but still want to like get a little stronger, get the augments and whatnot. Yeah, I think they'll allow you to buy the augments with the silver and gold coins. Maybe even the Delubrum stuff. Maybe they'll allow you to break a silver coin down into 100 bronze coins, for example. That wouldn't surprise me, so you could go back and get those a lot easier. Maybe not anything that crazy, but, you know, maybe 10 coins per silver coin or something like that. That'd still be crazy, but, yeah, I think they'll do more with them, but not much. All right, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. No hello, but I'll love your content. You know what? I'll take it. That's as good a hello as I'll ever get. What do you think of the chances SE would add 11 to the 14 launcher, similar to Blizzard and WoW? 0 chance. It's a monthly sub. They're not going to suddenly cancel it out of being a monthly sub, which is what you're implying, because Classic does come with retail. 0% chance. They still have a sizable number of people who pay monthly to play that game. They're not going to cut that out to get more people to play it. Classic WoW is supposed to be a way to get people to pay a sub to Blizzard, period. Square Enix has 2 different games that generate subs, and they both have their audiences, and they're not trying to get an audience that doesn't belong in Final Fantasy XI, an audience that's far more into modern aesthetics, quality of life, whatnot. Not trying to force them or even present them that opportunity, because all they're going to do is lose however 30,000, 40,000 subs worth of revenue doing that combination. Now, could they combine them in the launcher and still charge 2 different subs? Absolutely. Would they do that? Doesn't seem unreasonable, but they wouldn't do it like Blizzard does it, where it's all part of one retail sub. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Haps. All right, we're back to hellos. Thank you. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Hope the same for you. 1, any big tips, or I hope I knew this, for an aspiring reading-focused content creator for 14? No, I feel like most people understand their own raid style, and that's kind of reflective in the content. No, I actually don't have much of anything. One thing that I gradually learned in content creation over time was that relaying information that was better for the individual who was receiving it was more important than just getting information out. So I had a big gripe, and I still kind of have this gripe, and that's why sometimes I just don't release videos on things, with presenting a strategy in a video and it not being something I created. So, for example, it'd be like if I made, let's say I made an E8 Savage Guide when, you know, that was the final fight. And most of the Party Finder was using, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't have, they could be using Ilya or whatever. Something somebody else came up with, right? Yeah, I'm presenting what is the most valuable information, but it's so impersonal that it loses value to me as the creator. Because it's what I should be sharing. It's what I know I would share. It's what I would tell people to do, given what the Party Finder is doing on average. Even if it's, you know, it's like, oh, this is what the Party Finder does. This is how you do this, how you do that. And I want to present all of them in case they find a Party Finder that does one or the other, which then extends the video length. And none of it's my information, and that feels a little disingenuous. I don't think it's wrong to do that. But as a creator, I don't feel good doing that, presenting somebody else's ideas or strategies, because it's more optimal than what I did during prod, for example, because it's not mine. I didn't do that. I didn't create that. I don't even want, even if I say in the video I didn't do that, the fact that I'm the one presenting it, it makes me feel like I'm taking it. And so I'll do it sometimes, and I'll just make sure to say, like, I didn't come up with this or whatever, but I never feel good about it. So that's not even advice. That's just a personal way that I feel. I don't think you should adhere to that guideline at all. I don't think anyone should adhere to that guideline or that train of thought. It's just a mental block that I have with it. How's it feel to have a PF strat named after you, bro? I didn't even fucking, I went to sleep. I've been meaning to make a video about week 1 strats. That's on my list of things to do. Because we literally beat that fight. I uploaded our clear. That was it. I woke up the next day, it had 50,000 views, practically, on YouTube. And I'm like, oh no. I didn't know. Oh no. And then I was like, you know what, fuck it. When I make the guide, I'll just do that. Because we weren't using a different strat by that point yet anyway. We were still using it, so it was whatever. But it's like, I hate it. I hate it. Because people refuse to learn. They refuse to learn and improve. Nothing infuriates me more than that. It's latching onto a week 1 strat, a better strat being found, and not having the willingness to learn. I spoke about it a few weeks ago. There's a problem with people wanting to beat fights, but not learn fights. And when you don't know a fight, that's where you get that really arrogant, like hard-headed, no, we'll just do this because it works. Even if the group were to wipe 10 times, they're like, I don't know what's going on. If there's a better way, if there's an easier way, not just for more uptime, not for more casting time, just a straight up easier way. And people just don't want to do it because it's not what they learn. Oh, it drives me up a wall. And that's the same with Happy Brambles. It's like, I get people sending me tells in game, go kill yourself, I hope you die, because I have that. And I'm like, bro, what is wrong with you people? Like, you act as if I'm like holding a gun to people's head and telling them, yo, do happy bramble, do happy bramble. And it's like, bro, it's not my fault if other people want to come up. I didn't even make the guide when people started doing that. People just watched the video and then said, happy brambles. I was like, I didn't even do this. So, I hate it, is the answer. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hey, do you think the new melee DPS will have fast or slow GCD? Slow. I think so it's most likely to be a maiming job, which, you know, Dragoon is the only other maiming job that we have. It's the only melee that is not speedy naturally. It doesn't have a built-in haste or anything like that. And I think they'll do that with the new job. I think it won't be a super fast-paced one. I think it'll be more like Dragoon. So that's my prediction, and we'll see if it comes true or not. All right, and that looks like that does a trick for everything that I didn't want a lightning round. I don't think there's too many things in here. There's a lot of comments about the motion sickness thing, which again, just caught me by surprise. The only game I've ever had motion sickness in is Type 0, so I'm super not the right person. But fortunately, there are a lot of people who talk about things they've done to help with motion sickness or friends that had motion sickness and things they did. So that's super grateful. Someone commenting on my IT crowd. When I first started working in New York City, before I did this, I was like internal tech support. My boss, the day I walk in, he goes, okay, before you start working, have you seen the IT crowd? And I said, what's that? And he said, okay, so before I'll let you work on anything, you have to watch the entire show. How you get to watching that, don't really care. But that's your first job. Let me know when you're done. And that show is hilarious. My favorite being the bomb disarming robot that is run on Windows Vista. That would be my favorite scene in the entirety of the IT crowd. What else do we have here? Talking a little bit of somebody clarifying about how Ul'dah has not great chat on Crystal. It's I've seen some things that are worse than the person who's saying it's just like, oh, it's no worse than any other. I've seen some things. I don't want to talk about it, but if it's anyway, there's the large scale instance question. There's the freaking GM ban question. Fucking GMs, man. I have no. Ugh. Anyway, moving on. There's still a bunch. There's a couple of Blue Mage stat squish questions, so I answered it once, so I just took that one answer and ran with it for the entire time. 2 instances of motion sickness, current state of the game, 7.0. Do you think they'll speed up the new player experience in 7.0? I think in 6.0 they'll probably revisit the new player experience again about halfway through. And then in 7. I think they'll continue to do that, like mid-expansion. They'll do it because it gets a lot of people excited when people pick up a game or they put the game down because they maybe felt like there was too much pressure to get through, too many things to get through, too many hours. They're going to hear that they're resolving it, and they're like, oh, yeah, I remember that. They did that before, but they're doing it again? Okay, so maybe it's even better. And it's a marketing tool on top of an actual problem that needs fixing in Final Fantasy XIV, especially as the game grows older over time. So I think that, yes, they will be something that consistently happens during the development of every expansion, midway through the patches. So that way they can generate a little more new player and returning player excitement on top of actually resolving something that needs to do it. There's a couple of people that are like, wait, you don't drag the dragon north in Elloa? No, you just kill it in the middle. Here's the thing. Killing the dragon in the middle has one downside. People without good gear, like brand new level 50s, if they have a double white mage in the party, they might die because they probably have like 4k HP as opposed to like the 6.2k. And let's be honest, a lot of healers are lazy. But honestly, even with keeping the dragon in the center, you can kill the skeletons before they even get there. It doesn't even matter. Like, if you leave 1 or 2 of them alive, and then they run into the center, and then the other 3 or 4 pop, there's no reason to pull the dragon to the north. It's a complete waste of time. It also doesn't waste that much time, but it's so unnecessary, I don't know why anyone bothers doing it. This isn't level 50. We mow this content down so quick. There's no risk of death. Just keep it in the center. Or again, like I said, drag it south towards the party so they can start hitting it faster. That way it's A, still not in the center, and B, actually helps the party, because you always have stragglers in 24-mans, helps the party get to it faster and start killing it faster, see? That's the modern way of thinking about it. Let's see, what else do we have here? Bradley Default 2's counters. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in the video. Let's see, tons of comments and follow-up questions about stat squishing. Again, I'm trying not to get too into it because it's going to happen a lot over the next several months. And I'm just like, there's a Zero Asker who said they just wanted to say, hey, so hey, you get to make up for one of the people who didn't. Somebody asked me if we're going to see the Shadowbringer in the Shadowbringers trailer. Will we see the Warrior of Light as Dancer? Dancer's not a new job in Endwalker, so why would they be a dancer in the Endwalker trailer? Not to mention that we have a dancer in the Shadowbringers trailer. We have a Gunbreaker and a Dancer, both in the Shadowbringers trailer. So if anything, you should be wondering this about the new melee, which my prediction, of course, is that Xenos will pick up the weapon of whatever the new melee DPS is, and that's going to be how they do it. But that's just a prediction. We don't know that for certain. That's just my prediction. That's all it is. We had somebody who asked about adding skill chains. Listen, no. Skill chains work in games that are slower and more controlled, not games where your individual performance is. This is, I hate these questions that try to force Final Fantasy XI ideology into a modern MMO. There's a reason it doesn't work. They don't want to require that time of precise timing coordination. It's because of the pace of the game. Final Fantasy XIV is not a game where you can sit there and line up exact skills with other people's exact skills. Now, I know you make the mention, this is very valid, of organizing buff windows. That is true. But that's not the same as lining up skill chains in Final Fantasy XI. Final Fantasy XI is very much a mix of mixing the TP system with the MP system and trying to make sure you coordinate all of those things. It's very different nowadays, because nowadays it's like you just do 6 skill chains, and if there's magic burst hits, a magic burst hits, or you need it for certain content. But with buff windows, you're looking at a 10 to 15 second window where 30 to 40 skills are done. Lining up one skill to line up that burst window on top of lining up that burst window, which is what you're asking. You're not asking to replace one with the other. You're asking to essentially combine them. Is overkill. It's unnecessary. It's bogged down. It's clunky. It was clunky in Final Fantasy XI. It only worked because that was what we had at the time. Its clunkiness shows more nowadays than it ever did before because people just don't even fucking bother unless they absolutely need to. And it's the absolute only way they're going to cleanly get through something in a very quick period of time. And most people bought that shit nowadays in Final Fantasy XI anyway. So what's the fucking difference? And then for BIS, yeah, BIS is less of a problem of the gear and more a problem of stat spread. Jobs are just kind of designed with completing their own rotation in mind and less about how an individual stat really scales with it. Crit has a problem of being way too high scaling in Final Fantasy XIV. It's been a problem for years, and I don't think they'll fix it, but I always hope they do. And I don't think they're going to add like a ton of different individual stats, but even just splitting crit chance and crit damage so that it's at least an aspect that needs to be balanced more. Some jobs really just itching for the crit chance. Or at the very least, you have to commit to 2 different stats. So if you're trying to do skill speed and hit a certain tier, or just maybe, I don't know, they need to work on the scaling and maybe change the effects of what's there, maybe split crit into 2, and honestly combine skill speed and spell speed in a haste. I think that's something that needs to happen, and I don't see any reason not to do it. So what was there? There's the double question. Will they go back to job quests? No, we know there's role quests again. In fact, there's 5 role quests instead of 4 role quests in Endwalker, and they did say there would be job quests at level 90 though, and and I think they also said that the new jobs would have their own job quests, similar to the way Dancer and Gunbreaker did. So it will at least have that. There's someone who asked 3 questions. Do we need more late game dungeons? No. Listen, I don't like expert roulette being only 2 dungeons, coin flip roulette as I like to call it, but I also don't care about dungeons. So I very rarely even do expert roulette. So it's hard for me to have an opinion other than I don't care. And again, that's just my opinion. But they've openly expressed that it's like dungeons are just such a vessel for like the average player to obtain tomestones that there's not really a reason to have so many of them. And I agree with that. I just also don't like coin flip roulette. That's the other thing I agree with. I just don't like coin flip roulette. Do you know if Square Enix is working on a major engine update? Listen, if I knew it, we'd all know it. And if only I knew it, I wouldn't be saying it here. So no, we have no idea if they're working on anything engine-wise for any sort of update in the future. What model do you think they'll use for the weapons? I had a hard time thinking about this. Because I mean, I think it needs to be Seeing Horde weapons, but at the same time, we know we don't have Seeing Horde weapons for a few jobs, so they'd have to make new ones, in my opinion. And that's also assuming Dragon Song War. Well, no, Dragon Song War is a lot more specific. Shinryu shouldn't be anything a part of that. A lot of people were suspecting, because Shinryu got weapons for the new jobs, that was what was the next ultimate was going to be. I do think that eventually that will come to play. I don't think it comes to play here. So yeah, it's a good question. Anima, you know what? I don't remember what the T weapons were. Do you say T having a different relic? Oh fuck yeah. I mean, there's 2 different Anima weapon models, so maybe it uses a different one. It won't be entirely new models. I guarantee you it won't be that. But yeah, which one it is? That's actually a good question. I'm not 100% certain. Yeah, I don't have a good prediction on that. I just want the cool shit. ETA on DR Savage Guide? No idea. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's again. I mentioned March at the beginning of this thing, so I don't have anything. Would you speculate about the new melee jobs LB3? I can't. We don't know what the job is. I need to see the entire aesthetic, not just the weapon of the job to predict what it would be. Let's see. More motion sickness, DR normals. If you got the thinking about reward scaling for DR in general. Yeah, DR Savage doesn't have a... I mean, honestly, that's kind of been a thing. Think about it. Castrum didn't have great rewards until they buffed it. Memoria, really off-putting rewards outside of wanting the glam for it. Doesn't even have a mount to farm, so it's really hard to get people to want to do it. And then DR Savage is just upgrades in the mount. I mean, once you beat it once, do you really, really want the dyeable armor? Like, yeah, maybe, but yeah. I mean, that's been a problem they've had. They've been trying to add these extra pieces of content, but they don't really know how to incentivize them. And I really think Memoria needs a mount. And I think DR Savage could probably at least use coins that drop in normal mode as well. So you feel good if you're like, okay, we beat the first boss. I got 10 silver coins. Okay, we wiped on the second boss, beat the first boss again, got 10 silver coins. Even that little thing would help a ton. So yeah, I don't know. I agree with you though. The scaling and the rewards are definitely off. Like, I'll go do BA anytime because it's like super easy and the rewards they're sellable. That's another thing. The rewards not being sellable in DR Savage. There's a minion. There's, of course, earning the Ozma mount. There's upgrading the armor. It's like it's a mesh of things, whereas Savage feels like all the loot that could have been in Savage is in normal mode. And Savage is just for the one-time mount, the minion that everybody gets, so it's not even worth selling because there's way too many other people who get it on a clear. And then the gear itself, which you don't need, really, unless you really want dyeable judge armor, which some people do, to be fair. But I don't think it's that big a deal. So, I don't know, maybe that's just me. Thoughts on Plumage 5.45? It's fun. I like Basic Instinct. I haven't done Omega yet, so my opinions are kind of limited. But Basic Instinct is made for some really, really cool stuff. Let's see. Are the second fights of a raid tier always fast-paced? They're kind of similarly paced to the first fights, like E6, E10, E2. They're all about the same time. The first two fights are supposed to be relatively close in difficulty, and the length of a fight is a big part of the difficulty of a fight. Some people won't want to admit that, but fatigue sets in really long fights. It can be a really big thing to overcome. So them being closer to like 10-minute fights definitely is par for the course, and something we should continue to expect in the future, at least in my opinion. More stat squish stuff, more stat squish. Okay, and I think that covers everything that I need to get through in the lightning round as well. So with that, I am so hungry. I'm gonna go cook. I feel like passing out right now because just peanut butter wasn't enough. So anyway, thank you for watching this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. If you have a question, be sure to ask it in the comment section of the video below. Be on the lookout for some BD2 videos this week. And with that, I'll see all of you fine ladies and gentlemen in the next video. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you then. Until then, take care.